All right. Welcome to the podcast. I am Kevin the Visionary, and I am here with Carl the Doctor Boxer. I'm excited because Carl was one of the people who, in the very beginning, reached out to me and wanted to give me some information about nutrition and diet, which I rejected. And so here we are months later, and he's still going strong with his diet. I'm still going strong with my diet, and we're going to talk a little bit about his history, his where he's been, what he's done. So, Carl, welcome.
Hello, everyone, and I'm grateful to be here with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to speak to you online, which is great. And I'm looking forward to all the numbers of questions that are going to fly, and hopefully, I'm going to share some information that people might find useful, which is what we're all about, right? We want to help others.
Yes, sir. And so, right off the back, I'm going to ask, right, because we'll get into this as we go. So, I hear your accent. Can you tell us where you're from?
Originally, I'm from Poland, which is middle of Europe, and I came to UK 2005 when I was just about 20 years old, and came in search of continuation of my boxing career and try to be chase my goals and dreams, which I never give up on. And that's how I've kind of appeared here. That was pretty much the start of the journey.
Okay. And so, boxing. How long have you been doing that? Like, what? Well, let me ask you this: what got you into boxing, and how long have you been doing that?
I first originally started with kickboxing, which was my cousin's. I blame my cousin. My cousin's fault. My cousin, she was only about 18, I think, and I was about 13. She came to my house once, to our house where we used to live back in Poland, and she started doing splits and all the kicks, and I was like, wow. And I obviously, since about the age of 6, I was always fighting with everyone I could, and always just trying to try and kick the bags and hit the bags and kick the bags and hit the bags and all this around. And then when I got to about 13 years of age, and I said to my mom, once I wanted to see my cousin, I said to my mom, can you take me to the boxing gym? I want to go fight. So then my mom was like, no, you're not gonna go boxing because you're not gonna get punched in the head, but I can take you kickboxing. I was like, all right, sounds good. But I knew that there was gonna be a way around it to go into boxing, right? And after the first couple of tournaments, competitions, when I became number one in the country, and then I started to go secretly onto the boxing competitions without my mom knowing. And I was telling that I'm going to the kickboxing tournament, when in fact I was going to the boxing tournament. So that was the beginning of it. And then we had a coach who was kind of taking us to both boxing and kickboxing at the same time, kind of going from one tournament to another. And we've had quite a lot of fights in Poland. Like, we used to box and fight every single weekend, pretty much from the age of 13 to the age of 17, 18. And that was pretty much that was the big start to the journey. I became 5 times national champion in Poland, number 5 in the world, number 3 in Europe, and got to the age of 18, and I thought, what do I want to do? So I really wanted to go to the special forces. That was my dream of being in special forces of military police. That's what I got, and I spent just under a year in a training to becoming professional soldier at military police. And after about 8 or 9 months, I became national champion while I was in the army,
Ah,
because I was able to get out. Pretty much, I was out every single day, which is unusual because they never let anyone out from the army. Go, we do whatever you want, and I was lucky because I was already a national champion for a number of years, and the surgeons were like, "You do whatever you want as long as you win the gold while you're in the army. We're gonna be blasting all about it. We're gonna be talking about it." And I was like, "Yeah, I like it." So I became senior national champion when I was 17, and the seniors were starting from the age of 21. So I had to have permission from like a governing body of the fighting association allow me to go into the senior, because between junior and senior there was like a massive gap of strength, obviously, right? Because
Hmm.
when you're a young boy, you just got like a boy strength, and then all of a sudden you go into fight with someone who is 30 years old, who's got a serious main strength. And I remember in the first Europe, in the national cup, I believe that was, yeah, national cup 2003, I think, and they've allowed me to box with seniors. And in the final fight of the tournament, after about 3 or 4 fights, I've had to get to the final in the national cup, Polish cup, and in the national final, I've had someone who was already 8 times national champion. The guy was super strong, super muscular. The guy was in my weight division, but the guy was about 3 times the size of me.
Wow.
There was me standing in the corner thinking, "You're only 17. The guy is like 30 something, won already 8 national titles." I'm like, I'm gonna get killed. I was thinking, I'm gonna get bleached. I'm gonna get mewed incredible. But then the fighter in me was like, no, I'm having this. I'm getting this gold. I'm getting this cup. And I've managed to win that. I'm not sure how, because for a few days afterwards, I was not around mentally, because my brain was probably concussed for a good couple of days actually. And that was pretty much the day when I knew that I want to continue my boxing career over and over, boxing any fighting sport. That was my plan.
Okay. So let's talk about nutrition. So while you were young and in your middle age, what was your nutrition like? What was your diet and stuff like?
I think you'll find that pretty shocking, because from the age of 13 to the age of pretty much 18, I was regularly starving myself. That's once. Not drinking any water. That's two. Not taking any supplements, any vitamins, nothing. It's just basically, I don't know what it was. I had so much energy and strength to train 2, 3 times a day, not eating pretty much barely nothing. I'm just wondering, looking back in history, I would call myself like I've had a mental eating disorder, because some weeks we had to lose, being only I was only about 57 kilos. I was weighing about 60. I had to lose about 3, 4 kilos over the weekend,
Whew.
and it was just a starvation, like constant starvation,
Mhm.
depriving my body of everything I could, completely, constantly dehydrated, constantly hungry, constantly on repeat. That was on repeat.
Okay, yeah. So I say the same thing sometimes because I didn't have a long career like you, but I did track. I did a little bit of mixed martial arts and boxing myself. And when I think back to how I was eating back then, I said to myself, I don't even know how I how I managed, because I didn't really eat that much. And what I did eat was just absolute nonsense.
Yeah,
So
like you said, I feel sometimes looking at the past, I feel embarrassed that I've let that go this far without even a clicking, like a little light bulb moment, thinking, hold on, I'm doing something wrong, because all
right.
I had was starve, 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 sweat, 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 never drink water, just always keep it low. But my body fat, although my body fat percentage was around 2% of my pretty much my whole life, and I
Okay.
was ripped to shreds. I had a six pack that I couldn't even pinch the skin on my stomach. But at the same time, I was feeling constantly cold, always ill, always moody, always angry, always sort of aggression was in me. Like, it's great for fighting, but not necessarily to that point where I was
Right.
always on the edge.
Makes sense. I kind of feel the same way too, always being cold and all that type of stuff because I have a slim figure myself. And so, yeah, I can relate to that. So let's fast forward a little bit and then we'll go back. So I was online teaching about veganism and well, not so much veganism, but plant based and, not eating meat and all these different things. And I had never heard of the carnivore diet. I've never heard of putting the fruits and vegetable off to the side and focusing on fats and butter and cheese and eggs and meat, right? So, what was your thoughts when you first saw one of my videos? Like, what were you thinking?
I think that was I came across one of your videos just after probably about maybe 2 3 months after I became carnivore with my girlfriend,
Okay.
and already by then I knew quite a lot more about nutrition than I thought I knew before. And I always used to think, all my clients that I train, I used to give them advice on nutrition. And now I'm looking back, and I actually feel sorry that I told them all that I'm sorry that I gave you the bad advice, because I've been giving you the worst advice I could give you.
Right.
And it's like, then I realized that it's all upside down. All this food changed upside down. Then I see your story and see your videos, and I was like, Kevin, you need to just change your way of looking at it, because it's not necessarily as right as you're saying. And I remember posting a couple of comments, and I was like, I hope he's gonna read that comment, because I thought that's a lot of people gonna comment. I was like, hope you're gonna read that. And then I remember, I think I've sent Rachel sent me something about you, and I was like, yes, that's it. That Rachel, go and post on it, because he's definitely could do with a lot more meat. He would be feeling incredible. And that was my, like, a little start of that story.
Okay. And I know when I first saw the comments, I was kind of offended and I started deleting people and I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about, what are they talking about? And I think it was um not think, but I know. So one of a friend of mine, which, well, she's a friend of mine now. She wasn't at the time, but she reached out to me, and for some reason, in the middle of all the chaos that was going on that day, she kind of got my attention. And so she's like, "Hey, let me send you some information." And so I looked over the information, and the rest was history. But you decided to reach back out to me and say, "Hey, now that you're kind of looking into this and you're open to it, um, my friend Rachel has been trying to get in contact with you. Can you unblock her? Because I blocked her or deleted her. Yeah, I blocked her." And I was like, oh, wow, you know what? So I ended up unblocking her. And so that was a funny moment, but it was very interesting at the same time.
I remember that we've been exchanging with Rachel, exchanging messages, going like, Kevin blocked me. I can't believe it. I was like, I was just trying to give him advice, I was just trying to help him, but it's not. And that reminded me a little bit of when I try, even now, I'm trying to speak with certain groups of vegans. Let's say, almost it feels like I can't even put any logical information in there, because instantly there is block, removed, reported, whatever, and I'm like, I didn't even say anything bad. I just said that. Well, why not just? It's weird, because it seems like you can be politely and calmly converse with most vegans. I've met in my life a handful of them, which I could speak about everything, but majority just doesn't want to go beyond the point that maybe they are not completely right. Is that
Mhm.
that
No,
was
I
my
agree.
point?
I agree.
Yeah,
So how long
that's
have you so how long have you been on a meat-based diet?
so I've met Rachel probably 2021 beginning, and I knew her for about 8 months, 10 months before, and I knew that she's only eating meat. I remember we went out a couple of times with all the groups of guys, and I've seen, like, she only eats meat. And then we went out for dinner once with, like, many of us, and she's like, I don't eat nothing else but meat. I only focus on that. And I was like, oh, she's a carnivore coach, and that's kind of that got my attention. I was like, oh, let's look into it. But I've never been, not brave, but I never really kind of looked deeper into it. And then when my girlfriend and I moved in together at the beginning of 2020, end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and she was like, "Oh, Rachel, she's a carnivore, right?" And then Lucille started, my girlfriend, started to looking into the food industry. She just She taught me so much. She can't be with
Mhm.
us tonight, but she taught me so much about the history of all the industries that I couldn't even imagine that what's going on behind the closed doors. And it's like almost like follow the mining trail, and you're like, oh, I've learned something completely new. And
Yeah.
that was the next level.
Okay. And so did you fight it in the beginning? Did you say this is crazy, or were you just like, I'm gonna just give it a try and see what happens?
No, that was actually Lucille who was like, why don't we try? Why don't we try it for a week? And obviously me being me, I was like, yeah, let's go, let's do this, let's do it right now. So we've had quite a lot of, I call it crap now because we had a lot of biscuits, some crappy stuff in the cupboards, like some bit of sweets, bit of this, bit of that. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna finish all of it, and we're not buying nothing else anymore apart from meat, Himalayan salt, and butter. And we were like, all right, let's do this. Took me about 2 days to end all of the cupboards, empty the cupboards, give most of the give away, all the juices and soups and stuff. Where before, to be honest, I actually didn't mention that a year before, 2 years before, I actually was a vegetarian for almost a year.
Hmm.
And being a vegetarian for almost a year has ruined my life, my physical body. Because within 10 months of being vegetarian, I've depleted my body of everything I possibly could. I became severely anemic. I've My hair was falling out. Obviously, I don't have hair now, but I had a bit more then. My weak nails, my health, my issues with health over and over. So I spent quite a lot of time to try to repair my health afterwards. And I always call it that, unless you've been on the both sides of the story, let's say being vegetarian, vegan, and then going carnivore and having a balanced diet, which everyone always talking about, we should all have a balanced diet. You don't really understand the difference of the let's say different diet, I think.
I agree. I agree. I think,
But
like you said, there's some people that has always eaten meat, and then there's some people that's been vegan or plant based for a long time, and they think that that's it. But when you go from one spectrum to the next, you have a greater understanding and a greater appreciation for what other people have gone through. Because I've heard so many stories. Like, I don't have the biggest Instagram account, but people are always messaging me about telling me their stories, where they've been, what they've been through, asking advice and stuff like that. And I've heard so many negative stories of people who were severely ill from being vegan or plant based. And then when they started introducing the meat and cutting out the plants, everything reversed and pretty much went away. So I can totally understand that.
yeah, that's a massive one. Because looking from the perspective now, from the time perspective, I've had so many friends that were female that's suffering with period pains, example like period pains, endometriosis, and over and over. It's like, and then I know a couple of those women that actually took matters in their own hands, and they actually started to eat more animal products. They started to eat more fat. They started to be more, because what really majority of women I train. I'm a coach now. I'm not fighting anymore, but I'm a boxing coach now, and I'm helping people with their physical and mental health as well. So most women that I train obviously want to know how to fight, know how to defend themselves, but also they want to be slim,
Hmm.
right? Women want to be slim, so there's like, and what the society thing got everyone to do is count the calories.
Right.
And once everyone's counting calories, right? What's happening when you count calories? You cut all the fat from the diet, especially for women with all the reproductive organs. It's the most important thing to eat to protect that because this gives life.
Yeah.
That
And
was
that's
my, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's truth. It's something that I learned, over time, that I didn't even realize that how important the fat is, how important the cholesterol is for protection of cells, the human cells, period. right? And even for me, I when I was plant based, I was having severe memory issues. I was forgetting stuff, brain fog, just like my performance at work had declined. People were complaining and stuff, and I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was just, honestly, I didn't know. And it wasn't until I started, focusing on the fats and the meats and the different things that my brain fog went away, the mental clarity came back, and I'm probably 10 times sharper than I was before. But and I can literally feel it coming back. You know, the dizziness, like I would get dizzy at least 10 to 15 times a day. If I stood
Wow.
up, yeah, it was bad. If I stood up too fast, if I bent a certain way, like it was just weird, man, all the time, just like having to hold on because I feel like I'm about to pass out. It was bad. And
That's,
all of that went away once I incorporated the meat and the fats into my diet.
that that's what I was doing for most of my life because I was always in my mind was that if I don't eat fat, I won't be fat.
Hmm. Uh-oh. Your connection might have
I think my
just,
connection might be I think
yep.
broke down a bit. Yeah, I mean,
Uh-oh. I wonder, is it mine or yours? It seems clear on my side.
is it could
Is
be
it
my
mine or
turn.
yours?
I don't know if I think it's my could be my side. And then my worst fear was always to be fat. And what
Mhm,
you do? You start thinking about counting calories. You're thinking about doing all sorts of stuff that going to reduce that intake of fat because I was always thinking that fat going to make me fat. And then
mhm.
instead you swapping it for diet products with zero nutrients in it, and that was like a little one-way street where you realize that that's the wrong way to go.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, Also too, what I didn't know, and these are all things that I've learned over time, is that the brain is fat, and the brain needs the cholesterol, it needs the heme iron, it needs all the different things that brings healthy blood, makes healthy blood cells, and gives you the nutrients that you need to function. And the brain also takes 20% of everything that you consume. It takes 20% first.
Uh,
And so if you're eating plants, right, and you're focusing on foods that doesn't have fat or nutrition in them, and out of, you might be getting 20% nutrition out of whatever you're eating. Well, if the brain needs 20%, it's going to take
uh,
20% of 20%, and then you're left with a little bit of nutrients to
uh,
split between the rest of your body. And so that's one of the reasons why I was having the brain fog and the memory lapses and not being able to focus and the dizzy spells, is because my brain wasn't getting the nutrients that it needed.
I love, no, I love whenever I listen to your videos and clips, I'm always thinking he knows so much. It's incredible to actually listen to someone who knows the inside out, almost getting every single detail on why this, why that happened, why this is happening, and that's one of them things that I love following your advice and guidance
Mhm.
because it just kind of opens up your mind to the new things that oh I don't now understand why this happened or that happened. For most of my life, I always thought that it's because I was a boxer. My nose is broken time and time again, and I always thought that this is the reason why my nose is always blocked. And I always thought that this is the reason why my sinuses are always packed. And I couldn't. I was always snoring. I was always unable to breathe clearly until I changed my diet. And needless
Wow.
to say, I'm breathing through my nose, and I realized that has nothing to do with my broken nose. It's nothing to do with anything else but my diet. I've got no issues with my sinuses, with not breathing through my nose. Plus, the last 8, 9 months, I'm only showering in cold water only. I don't use hot water. I don't use warm water.
So I have still yet to give it a try. I've been hearing so much about it. Um, I'm gonna do it one of these days. I have yet to give it a try. My son tried it already. I still haven't tried it. So what do you
I
think?
always say to all people, with the stress that we deal with every single day, and the amount of pressure we've got from every different angle, I always say to people that I train, get under the shower, and at the end of it, last 10 seconds, switch on freezing cold and breathe. Because your heart gonna go crazy and you'll be like, and literally within 10 seconds, you switch that water off. And I always say, the feeling of that switch of that water and like, wow, that felt incredible. That's the reason why, like every single weekend, I go to the seaside. Like this morning, I went with the seal to the seaside and stayed 5 minutes in the freezing cold water. It was really cold. And the sea in UK got probably about 4 degrees. It was freezing, but I stayed for 5 minutes. I got out of there. My body was red like a lobster, and it was just the feeling of endorphin and happiness afterwards is just it's worth all the pain, to be honest.
Okay, okay. Like I said, one of these days I'm gonna give it a try because there's a lot of people that's been talking about it. There's a lot of studies that's been done pertaining to it, and some of the natural benefits that it has. So yeah, definitely something that I'm gonna put on my list and try to tackle. So tell us a little bit about your career from the standpoint of your accomplishments as far as in the
Um,
boxing.
the, so when I started all of it, I was only what 13-year-old boy, and I just thought I just want to fight. I didn't think of anything about winning any trophies or medals. I just wanted to fight instead of fighting in school and just getting my dad to school every single day or mum. I was just for if I go compete with some in some sort of martial arts. Plus, my brother used to always. He's my brother's 8 years older, so he used to always drag me with him to all the underground gyms that they were built in like a basement, and used to go and kick the bags and hit the bags and kick the bags, showing off in front of his mates that I was able to. By the age of 6, I was able to do 50 push-ups, full on push-ups, and that was like a little. Oh, that's my little machine brother, and I was like, and I always wanted to fight. That was my main goal. I just wanted to be able to fight, defend myself, because I subconsciously I felt that if I know how to fight, I won't have to fight on the street, if that makes sense. Because when you realize that you are doing good in actually inside the ring, you don't need to fight on the street, because I understand, like with many times with all my friends boxers also, we used to talk about it, and we're like, you punching people in the ring with the gloves on and you can hurt them. What would happen if you actually hit someone with your bare knuckle, bare fist? You could really harm them, which is gonna cause you to go to prison possibly,
Mhm.
or spend the rest of your life paying off someone's compensation. So it's not worth it. So it's actually that was like a little getaway from just the street fighting. And I always wanted to be number one at something. Obviously, we always want to be good at something, right? So that was my way of trying to be the best I can be at the sport that is not easy, because there are so many competitors in every single weight division that go into the national championships, being 13 years old, and your dream is to be number one, and you becoming number one in the country after having 5 fights, in the same day pretty much, and you're like, wow, I'm number one. I'm actually number one in the country in that weight division. So that was my start of my career.
So fast forward to the end and then work our way back. How many professional fights have you had?
I've had amateur, I've had quite a lot of amateur fights. I've had over 260 amateur fights, or
Okay,
200,
okay.
260 plus, because I've had so many different clubs, so many different cards. I've never counted them exactly one by one. Those are over 260 fights. Then 2012, I was trying to get to Olympics. So I was giving myself last kind of show at amateur boxing, and I was trying to get to Olympics. I went to Polish tournaments like a qualification to get the ticket to go to Olympic qualifiers, and
Mm,
I beat whoever I was supposed to beat then. But then on the last day, I was fighting with in the semi final. I think that was. I was fighting someone who was not really a good fighter, and I should have an easy fight. But after the first few seconds, we clashed our heads, and I suffered pretty big cut above my left eye, and that
okay.
kicked me out of the amateur hopes for Olympics. That was my dream. So that kicked me out of that dream. So then I turned professional with one of my coaches that I used to train here in London, and I've literally had 3 fights. The story of those fights is also pretty pretty long and kind of incredible and shocking at the same time. And 2015, I was supposed to have my fourth fight, and I got hit by a car, and where I broke my hips, I've damaged my back, I've landed on my head, so I've pretty much damaged my eyes a little bit. And from that day, British Boxing Board of Control, the governing body in UK, said that they will not give me my license because my health is not perfect, and if I keep getting hit in the head, that might be me losing my eyesight, which was a bit of a long story afterwards because I went through some serious depression, and it took quite a few years to get back to being myself again.
Okay. So that's a lot of fights. 200 and something amateur fights is a lot of fights. Um, okay. So today you kind of, you've made up in your mind, you understand, that you can't do what you wanted to do. So now you coach. Now you teach. Do you do this full time or part time or
To be honest, I do everything I can do, just trying to get my hands on as many things as I can, just to keep me busy, keep me up because I love being busy under pressure, under stress, because that's kind of how I thrive. That's how I call it. And I'm training a couple of people that doing all sorts of white collar fights. I train in one of the local gyms that I teach some classes. I've got quite a few celebrity clients that I've trained, a few actors, few singers, and that just kind of keeps me busy enough to help people. And I get
Mhm.
some new clients coming over, just want to lose a bit more weight, and whoever wants to listen, that they just start changing their diet a little bit. It's not even the majority of people have more of the routine problem, not the training problem, because a lot of people train really well, but they don't eat the right food, they don't rest enough, they've got enough stress, and all those things are suppressing the results that they could be getting. So I'm trying to focus on helping as many people as I can right now.
Okay, okay. So if you were to think about looking back on the diet you have now and when you were training, how do you think
Actually,
that would have affected you?
actually, as you said, that I knew exactly what you were gonna say, and I was thinking about this question quite a few times. And if I believe that's just my belief again, it's all our belief system. But if I knew what I know now about nutrition, I would definitely be in the elite of the world. That's just my opinion because with pretty much starvation and constant not eating, I've achieved quite a lot. With right nutrition, with right recovery, with right training, I would definitely achieve a lot more than I did.
Okay, yeah, I saw a clip on social media where Michael Jordan is talking about what he ate before games. And he said, he needed to eat something that would give him enough nutrients because he performs at a high level, and he would eat steaks before his games. And I remember when I ran track, we would eat beef jerky sometimes. because we're like, oh, we need the nutrients, blah, 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 blah. But it was, eating a piece of beef jerky is not the same as eating, an ounce of steak, right? And so, yeah, I feel the same way. If I had this type of information, I think I would have progressed a lot more in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's something that I guess we'll never find out what would happen if. But
Right.
from now, from what I'm seeing now, and what I'm trying to share and tell other people around me, even the information is that now look, we've got look. You're in America, I'm in the UK, in England. We can speak on this magical thing that I've got a camera there, right? It's like
Hmm.
we've got access to all the information that are there. All you've got to do is just watch, take whatever you can from that, and make your own assumption of what's good for you, what's bad for you, because we have been bombarded with the information about nutrition, about food, about eat this, eat that, eat diet, eat this, but we don't know which information is right and which one information is wrong, and which is true, which is false. So that's my opinion, is that you should definitely try for yourself for a little bit to be, let's say, a carnivore and see how you feel. Then try different things, try to balance that, because everyone I speak with, and I try to even mention that you should maybe you could try going carnivore for just go for 5 days, for a
Right.
couple of days and see how you feel. Because the mental fog gone after a few days. My dehydration, that I always was dehydrated, I'm running to the toilet every single hour now. I'm thinking I don't even drink water anymore. I just don't, because the amount of
Hmm.
meat I eat, and also the relationship with food that I used to have, that I was eating to comfort myself. When now I'm eating because I know it's early morning, I'm eating my steak, then I'm going the whole day about without nothing. I don't feel hungry, then I come back in the evening. I feel a bit like I'm a dog, because I'm eating once in the morning, once in the evening. And I'm like, that's incredible. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I'm just
Hmm.
relationship with food changed 180 degrees.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I
not
agree. Yeah,
I'm
I remember a few weeks back, maybe about 2 months now, I had an interview with a guy who eats plant based, and I think the interview was scheduled for like 7 p.m. and I hadn't eaten since about maybe 3:30, and so I'm going through the interview, and every 5 minutes he's snacking on something, right? He's going in the refrigerator, he's grabbing. And it wasn't until another person commented in the comments, it was a lot while the live was happening. They're like, he's eating every 5 minutes. And it didn't dawn on me. And I said to myself, that's because he's not getting any nutrients. He's hungry all the time because what he thinks is food is not food, and it's going right past his small intestines into his colon, and he's not getting any nutrients. So he's constantly hungry. And I just thought it was interesting because I remember being that way.
Oh man, I love listening to you. Just the way you explain things is so simple, and so that even a child would get it, and they understand whatever you speak about, because it's so perfectly presented to everyone, that I enjoy listening to you, man. It's
You
just
know,
great.
that's kind of my goal. My goal is to, make it simple, make it relatable, and make it, because a lot of times when you hear people speak, they use these big words and they try to like say all these things to, to make you think that they know all this stuff, and a lot of
It
times it's
sounds it sounds
wrong.
special. It sounds
Mhm.
special, just to make them feel like, oh, they must be some directors, or maybe like some engineers in dietitians and stuff. And you're like, you listen to someone like Kevin, and you're like, mate, you've got everything presented in a simple form as it should be presented. That's down to me. That's how I believe. It should be presented very simple and easy, so everyone can understand it. And you don't need to have a master's degree to understand the basics of special nutrition, right?
Mhm. Some interesting. And I'm this one the video that I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to put that video out before this one because I'm kind of working them in order. I just interviewed a fella who reached out to me, and he was one of the coaches slash counselors slash assistants to a very popular herbalist plant based person who is well known, has a huge following, makes a lot of money, and he just quit working for him
Wow.
because of one of my videos.
Wow.
He listened to the video where I interviewed the vegan guy, and it was one of his clients who he was trying to convince, or who had already talked to about herbs, and one of his clients found the video and sent it to him. And when he watched it, he said, I didn't understand how important understanding nutrients was until I saw your video, and I saw that this guy who's supposed to be teaching people about eating healthy couldn't answer one of the he couldn't answer not one question I asked him about anything. And so that's what convinced him. He started looking into what I was talking about, and he just walked away.
I don't know, to be honest, if I had to debate with you, I would just probably walk away. I'd be like, I don't want to debate with someone who knows a lot more than yourself. Because a lot of the time, recently, I've noticed whenever you speak with someone who don't have much knowledge, especially like vegans, for example, they quickly throw something in your face, like you killing animals, and that's the only answer they can come up with, that you're killing animals and you're an evil person. You're getting blocked and removed from every possible chat group or whatever.
Mhm.
And you're like, I can't even say anything, any logical comments, because there's just one side of the story, really.
No, and they don't think about, they focus on the cows and the chickens and the goats, right? But nobody ever talks about the snakes and the rabbits and the bees and the birds, squirrels, all these other animals, the insects that get killed with the pesticides. They get killed with the acres and acres of plowing, but really it's the pesticides, right? Nobody talks about that because it's a propaganda, and they want you to use half your brain and not the other half. um so
That's
it's
that's
it's, it's
one.
foolish.
That's one. When you look around the last few months, especially, I don't know how much is in America, but in Europe, all around, the propaganda, the no meat agenda has been pushed so much that every single bus stop, every single bus actually got an advert on it saying meatless this, meatless that, diet this, diet that. And I'm looking at it again, people have never been, in the history of humanity, people have never been so ill like we are now. The constant severe illness, the depression, the number of illnesses is incredible. And all of this while majority of the population is overweight and obese. When I'm looking
Yep.
at old pictures of like 70s, 80s, you rarely see an overweight person there in the pictures. You see in the beach from the 80s, and you might see occasionally someone a bit chubby. That's it. Everyone was slim. Everyone was, because there was not, like, my rule is, it was for years, but now I actually tightened it up. So I said, unless if something didn't exist 30 years ago, I do not eat it. Because 90% of food in a supermarket that you walk in did not exist 30 years ago. And we shouldn't be eating that, because that's just a feeding the disease. Because one industry, sugar industry, is in bed with big pharma. Big pharma is in bed with nutrition advice, and it's like those things are so interconnected that they work perfect together. Because uh, a cured customer is a customer lost.
Hmm.
That's how simple. That's how I see it. That's my opinion. That if I'm healthy, I don't bring money to the big pharma. I don't bring money to anyone else. If I know what to eat, when to eat, how to eat it, then I'm healthy, and I'm good, and I'm good to go. I'm good to do whatever.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, you know, and to add to that, something that a lot of us don't realize is that the body stores nutrients. And when you eat certain foods that lack nutrients, then your body goes to the stored stuff and starts to use it, right? But over time, if you're not giving the body the nutrients that it needs and it depletes all the stored stuff, now you become defenseless. So now you don't have certain nutrients to protect you from things, right? The cells and the different things that fight off these bacterias and all the different things. Now you don't have what you need to protect yourself, and that's how you get sick. And so we see all these people developing tumors and cancers and all these different things is because they're eating nutrient less foods and their body is not able to fight off the crazy stuff that that they're putting in their body. And then on top of that, there's all these chemicals that are in the foods. And so it's a double whammy when you eat the TV dinners and the chips and the snacks and the all these things, and you think you're getting some type of nutrients from carrots and kale and the salads and stuff, but you're not.
Because that's how we've been, that's how we all have been programmed by this thing that I call live vision, which is
Mhm.
television, right? Because we've been whatever you see on TV, we always think that it's more true than, let's say, a doctor speaking out on YouTube, because YouTube is not the TV, right? The TV is more kind of right, more true than the YouTube video. Where I know now, and I'm sure you know as well, that you can learn a lot more from the YouTube doctors than you can learn from the TV.
Right. No, absolutely. We're like you said, they've programmed us to ignore certain things and focus on you know and I'm not sure how much you've been exposed to this, but for black people, right, melanated people over here in America and in the Caribbean and probably in the UK too, they push these people and they make it about being black, culture, and black people don't do this because white people do this, and all that type of stuff. But if you really look at it, it's foolishness. But so many people believe it because of all the stigmas and the things that happened in the past. And I'm not making excuses or anything. I'm just saying that a lot of what we think is ours as melanated people, as black people, it makes no sense. And it lands you in a place of being uneducated, sick, and it takes you right back to the doctors.
My one of my, not favorite, but for the last couple of years now, since 2020, basically, is divide and conquer. That's
Mm-hmm.
how that's how they rule us. That's how the establishment, whatever you want to call it, they want us divided. Because that's again, that's I'm just talking about myself and for myself. If I cut myself and you cut yourself, we both bleed the same.
Mm-hmm.
We are all one I call it consciousness, because I'm just
Consciousness.
happen to be I'm just happen to be living in this white body that is a male European from Poland, blah blah blah. But in the end of the day, this is just a body. I borrowed this. This is borrowed. I've got to give after following 70, 80 years. I'm gonna have to give it back.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion is, if I look after it, this is borrowed. This is borrowed body. If I look after it for the next 80 years, I'm gonna have a good 80 years before I have to give it back.
Right.
That's my outlook on that. Because our
Yeah.
spirit never dies. We just move on to the next part.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
going on for another topic. We would have to sit here for hours and talk about
right.
next spirituality things. So it's like, but the main thing is that whatever you think the establishment is doing, they're trying to divide us all between each other. Because
Mm-hmm.
what's the difference between you and I? There's no difference. What's the difference between me and my neighbor? There's no difference. We just
Right.
happen to be different ethnicity, different religion, different color, different nationality, but that means absolutely nothing. We're still the same. We're still the same human. Just like my body is the same like your body. Your body
Mhm.
and my body needs protein, fat, sauce, and water. That's how I look at it.
Yep. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and he says, the we need to eat foods that are alive and not dead foods. Meat is dead and plants is alive. And I said, dude, that is the most ignorant statement that anybody can make. And I know where it comes from, but here's why it's so ignorant, because the body has no clue what dead or alive means. When you eat food, it gets converted into proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins, carbs, and water. That's it. So if you eat plants, your small intestines is trying to find fat, protein, minerals, vitamins, and water. If you eat meat, your small intestines is trying to find protein, vitamins, minerals, and water. So this whole notion of eating foods that are alive is so stupid, man. Now, I can say that because I used to do the same thing. I used to tell people the same stupid story. You see what I'm saying? And so now that you understand the truth, it's like, man, we fall for all of this foolishness.
It's a big one because a lot of people, whenever I try to explain something, especially like vegetarians, vegans, coming up with some absolute craziness, and you're like, but that doesn't make sense. We all have, oh yeah, everyone is different. Everyone got different type of body. Everyone got different genetics and all. And I keep saying to everyone, we are all the same in terms of on a cellular level. We need protein, fats, minerals, and water. That's it. And there's no okay. So I used to eat massive bowl of something, massive bowl of food, salad, and all this, having a balanced diet. I was sitting like I'm a pregnant woman for about 45 minutes before all of it digested and some of it stayed. And then I was like with my bloated stomach, sucking it in, thinking, oh my God, my stomach is massive. While now I'm eating steak, I'm eating sausages, I'm eating butter, I'm eating eggs, and I'm eating to the point that I can't eat no more because it doesn't taste anymore. So I know that I'm full. I'm looking down and my stomach is as flat as it was.
Yep.
That for me is explanation because I've had a friend who, whenever I seen him, he was running to the toilet about 4 times a day. And I was thinking, are you not worried that your intestine is going to get some sort of disease? Because you shouldn't be going to the toilet 4 times a day. I go every 4 days, while you going 4 times a day. And it's like that's just almost like we are so disconnected from reality that
Mhm.
we just don't notice those things.
Yeah, I remember when I was probably about 20, maybe 21, I was in the military at the time, and I went to visit one of my friends, and my stomach was hurting so bad. I thought I was about to die. I came this close to going to the hospital. It was a Sunday, but I knew I had to go to work on Monday, and so I said, I'll try to tough it out until I got to work because I can go. In the military, you can just go to the doctor, right? Because I was in a whole nother town, and so um, I went to the doctor, and he took X-rays and everything, and he listened to my stomach, and he starts to laugh, and I go, "What are you laughing at, man? I'm in pain. Like nothing's funny right now." He says, "You have gas." I go, "What?" I said, "No, man. Listen, you don't understand how bad this is." He says, "You have gas." He says, "Go to the vending machine and get a Coca-Cola and drink it." I go, I get a Coca-Cola and drank it, and I went to the bathroom almost immediately. And that's what it was, man. It was
Well,
just built up gas and poop made my stomach hurt that bad to the point where I thought I was dying. and
uh,
that's from eating junk.
yeah, yeah, because we keep mixing things up. When you're eating just meat diet, and someone comes up, I eat a vegan diet and I'm feeling great. Okay, you might feel great for now because you started it, but it's not going to be for a long time because your body needs, as an example, your body needs 70 grams of protein a day. If you don't give your body 70 grams of protein a day, as an example, then your body will find that protein in every other food. But to
Mhm.
find 70 grams of protein in a salad, you'll have to eat quite a lot of it. You have to eat quite a lot of it. So you're going to be sitting all day long eating it, and then you're being compared to a cow. I'm like, no, hold on a minute. Cows got 5 stomachs, and cows got a whole day to sit and chew that stuff for the whole day. So I'm fine. If I had all day, maybe I had 5 stomach and I could digest it, then yes, I understand. But unfortunately, we are humans and we've got to do things. You've got to eat your stuff to be healthy, and then you've got to go about your day.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's true, man. Yeah, the whole comparison to cows and the gorilla and all this stuff
You
is,
realize
yeah, it's just foolishness. And a lot of times people, they're regurgitating something that they heard somebody else say, and they haven't really looked it up. And the other thing to that is you can find anything you're looking for online. If you type in, does meat cause cancer? Does meat give you parasites? You're going to find a website that tells you that meat gives you parasite. But what they don't say is that more people, I just did a video on this today, more people get sick and get parasites from fruits and vegetables than beef, than chicken, than lamb. It's twice as much, but they don't tell you that, especially
but then
vegetables.
they don't tell you that why they don't. The thing is, in this day and age, which I call it a World War III, as a war on information, because you can find whatever you believe. There
Mhm.
is a proof to say that scientists proved that that is actually good. Although the only thing you can find is how good the meat diet is. Because recently Lucille was looking for something online, and it's like there is stuff that veganism cures depression, vegans do this, vegans do that, but there's not one research about meat curing depression, about meat helping obesity, about meat diet helping kind of internal issues. There is all the information about one thing, which is they want to push on humanity and society, but there's not much on the other side,
Correct.
and that should
And
just
it's,
make
it's
people question things.
it's a reason for that, because it's very easy to manufacture plants. Very easy. Very easy to manufacture these fake plant-based meats. It's a lot of money in it. It's
Exactly.
what's difficult? Livestock. It's a lot more work to have the chickens and the cows and go through that process of giving healthy food and stuff like that, and to raise them and to take care of them. So they're looking for the easiest and the quick money.
It's the money talks, right? I've got like a local farm outside of London, and the farm we always go the raw milk, we get it from there, we get the eggs, we get the raw honey, and it's like they look after the stock, they look after the animals. Seems like the farmers there, that's their life, right? They look after the cows looking great, the cows are free, they're walking on the land, they do whatever they want. I know there is a part of that where people talk about the animals being treated badly. There is that. The usually supermarket stuff is, I believe, is treated the way it is because they want to mass produce stuff
So much.
as fast as they can, as much as they can, to make the most profit from it. Which is
Mhm.
the reason why you should be going to your local farmers and find farmers that are kind of good, treating the animals at least right, correctly, and just go that way, go about it that way, rather than branding everyone a killer for eating a cow. But then again, if you think about it logically, one cow gonna feed a small family for around a year and a half, one cow, while drinking your soy latte every single day kills tons of animals because the farmers have spoken out. The farmers said that to grow soy, they have to kill all the livestock on the land, in the ground, ferrets, rabbits, rats, mice, and they said when they plowing through the ground, they don't kill completely every single animal, so they go there with a machine gun or a rifle and they finish them off. And I always say like, okay, so me eating a cow is bad, but you killing thousands of animals, but you don't eat the actual meat is okay.
Yep, it's craziness, man. It's mental psychology persuasion at its finest, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, wrap this up. We're right at our hour mark. And
Uh,
so if there's something that you want to, some advice that you want to give somebody that's either thinking about going vegan or plant-based, in the middle of a vegan or plant-based diet, or thinking about changing their diet, what would you say to them?
I would just say try to forget about what you know and go by your instinct. The instinct is always, if you think about it, let's say there is no supermarkets, there's no shops around. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go into the forest. You're not gonna pick any other berries, any other fruits or leaves. You're just gonna try to hunt a squirrel, I don't know, a fox. Focus your instinct and give it a go. If someone tells you try this diet because this way of eating, I don't really like calling it a diet, but it's more like a way of eating. And if you trying to get someone to open their eyes and say, go try to go carnivore, give it a go. Give it a go for 5 days. And if after 5 days you don't see no difference, go back to eating whatever you've been eating. But give it a go for 5 days. And I will promise you your life will change like mine have changed. My life have changed 180 degrees and I will never go back to eating what I used to eat ever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel the same way. That's good advice. And so, Carl, man, I really appreciate you taking this time out to share your story and chat with me for a little bit. And we'll talk soon, man.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to be on your podcast, man. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Speak to
All
you
right.
soon, man.
Talk soon.